everyone, and welcome to our step-by-step webinar series, Step 6, PRISMA Reporting and Covidence. My name is Laura Meller, and I'm the Head of Community Support here at Covidence, and I'm based in the UK. Today's session presenters are Ghida Iskandarani, who's a Community Manager based in the UK, and Razia Aliani, also a Community Manager based in Pakistan. So that might be a slight difference from the information displayed in the waiting rooms before we came online. Sorry about that. We're also joined today by Stephanie Harkins and Alindia Green-Lachlan, who will field questions during the session. Please type your questions into the questions box, which you should be able to see on the right-hand side of your screen. So today's session is being run in standard webinar mode. All attendees are muted. If we don't have time to answer your question before the session ends, we'll follow up with you via email afterwards. And everyone will receive a recording of this webinar by email within the next 24 hours, and we'll also make the slide deck available for you on our knowledge base. So just a little bit of contextual information about Covidence. Covidence is a non-profit organisation, and our mission is to change the way the world creates and uses trustworthy knowledge. Covidence was created by and for the research community, and it's designed to streamline the review process. Our software allows you to invite co-reviewers and manage the review process. The platform allows our teams to significantly reduce the amount of time spent on reviews, meaning that people are able to produce high-quality evidence faster. So we're a full-time team based around the world, continuously working on improving the product and providing technical support to our global user community. We're an entirely cloud-based platform, and we support the world's largest review community with almost 300,000 users around the globe. So today's session is an overview of the PRISMA 2020 guideline and a live demonstration of the new PRISMA features in Covidence. And before we start on any of that, I'm just going to run a quick poll, which you should see on your screen now. I'll run that for 30 seconds or so. We'd like to know how confident you feel at the moment about producing a PRISMA flowchart using Covidence. Thanks for sending us a response to that, and we'll come back to this again at the end. So I can see with about 3/4 of you having voted that 56% don't feel confident at all, 40% somewhat confident, and about 7% very confident. So hopefully we can nudge some of you who aren't confident into feeling somewhat confident by the end of the hour. Okay, I'll just leave that poll open for a couple more seconds and then I'll close it. Okay, thanks again for those responses. I'll now hand over to you, Ghida.
Thank you, Laura. So before we dive in on how to report PRISMA, we thought it would be useful to start the session with providing an overview on why it is important to follow PRISMA guidelines. Systematic reviews and meta-analyses have become increasingly important. Clinicians and academics read them to keep up to date with their field, and they are often used as a starting point for developing clinical practice guidelines in healthcare. So in academia, granting agencies may require a systematic review to ensure there is justification for further research in any academic field. So as with all research, the value of a systematic review depends on what was done, what was found, and the clarity of reporting. So in this slide, I've listed here a few of the items required when trying to report the flow of studies through a literature review, regardless of the type of review, and which highlights the importance of following PRISMA guidelines. So on the first item here, whatever the type of review you are working on, it is important that there is a transparent way of reporting sources of references. Second, identifying records and studies from other methods and information sources, such as citation searching, websites, gray literature, etc., is one of the trickiest components of a systematic review to report, but also essential. So when records are all centrally tracked, regardless of source, it is easier to produce this data. Third, also making the decisions about what are acceptable sources of databases and where to list grey literature and conference proceedings is important. Fourth, also making the decision, reporting reasons for exclusion are also a common challenge to reporting the findings of our literature reviews. Some researchers want to report reasons for exclusion at all stages of the review process, and others challenges occur when there are multiple reasons for exclusion in the same study. And finally, finding a way to collate all the information centrally and get it into an accurate flow diagram is a challenge, but also very important. So a little bit of history about PRISMA itself. Research in the late 80s found that there was poor reporting of scientific criteria and reviews published in leading medical journals. So this led to the development of the Quorum Statement, also known as Quality of Reporting of Meta-Analyses in 1999. In 2009, the guidance was updated and renamed PRISMA, which also stands for PRISMA, Preferred Reporting Items of Systematic Reviews and Meta-Analyses. And it has subsequently been updated again to incorporate advances in systematic review methodology and terminology, and is now known as the 2020 PRISMA Statement. So the PRISMA Statement itself is a 27-item checklist. It provides a comprehensive summary of all the methodology and processes associated with your review, and that allows transparency and replication. PRISMA is there to help you as authors improve the reporting of systematic reviews and meta-analyses. It is also used by journal editors and peer reviewers to evaluate systematic reviews that have been submitted for publication. So PRISMA is not a quality assessment instrument, it is a reporting guideline. The checklist is accompanied by an explanation and elaboration document, as you can see here, with these fantastic exemplars. They are very useful in helping you think about how you might want to report this information here. As well as the exemplars, that you can see there are a number of extensions with the PRISMA as well. So these have been added to the statement to help with the reporting of specific types of reviews or specific populations. And both of these exemplar and extensions can be accessed through the PRISMA Statement website. And by the end of the session, we'll have a handout with all the resources. So once you receive the slide deck as well, and you see that on our knowledge base, you'll access the handout and have all of the websites as links to all the extensions, and as well as the exemplars and the PRISMA Statement website itself. So now I'll hand over to my colleague Razia, who will take us through the new PRISMA 2020 flow diagram in more detail. Over to you, Razia.
Thank you, Geeta. So the PRISMA 2020 checklist for systematic reviews that Geeta just showed you, the particular item that we are interested in and is important to our current discussion is item 16A. So this item describes the results of the search and selection process from the number of records identified in the search to the number of studies included in the review, ideally using a flow diagram. The description of the flow of the studies is the same regardless of the type of review you're doing. There are some recommended numbers that should be reported, and these are listed on this slide. Geeta, can you move the slide? So this is how the simplest form of PRISMA 2020 flow diagram looks like. And the highlights that you see here are the changes from the previous version. The flow diagram shows the number of articles found and explains how they were eliminated during the title and abstract screening phase, and then the full text screening phase, all the way down to the final number of studies included in your systematic review. The new version is similar to the old one, but 4 boxes have changed and require more detail. In the top 2 boxes, you list the number of articles found and the number of duplicates removed. In the first box on the left, you now have to provide the information about the citations found in registers and database. And you will see a note at the bottom. It recommends identifying the number of articles found in each database separately, each register separately, not just the total number. The box next to it on the right is different from the older version, and you have to provide more detail about how duplicate citations were removed, whether they were removed manually or by using any automated tool. So coming towards the next two boxes, here you list the number of articles removed during the title and abstract and screening phase, and this is the same as it was in the older version. In the third row, however, you now have to list the number of full text articles you were unable to obtain, which is a new addition, because sometimes you cannot access every article identified in your database search. In the fourth row, you list the number of articles removed during the full text screening phase, which is similar to the older version. In the last box at the bottom, you list the number of studies included in your systematic review. The only change here is that you also have to state if the number of studies differ from the number of articles, as these can vary sometimes. Next slide. So in the older version of Prisma, there was only one version of the flow diagram. However, in Prisma 2020 now, it provides 4 different versions to choose from, and that depends on your type of the review, whether it's a new review or an updated review, and sources used to identify studies. The first 2 versions that you see here are for systematic reviews, while the other 2 are for updates to already published systematic reviews. You can find these on Prisma website, and the flow diagram is located on the right-hand side of the website under key documents. Next slide. So overall, this is what the Prisma 2020 flow diagram can look like at its simplest and its most complex forms. So the gray boxes you see here, they need to be only completed if applicable, otherwise they can be removed from the flow diagram. The left-hand side of the diagram refers to previous studies if you are doing an update of your review. The middle section is the main flow of studies if you are using databases and registers. And on the right, you can also add a section on studies that were identified using other methods. Now I will hand over to Geeta, who will demonstrate the new Prisma features that are there in Covidence.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Razia. So now it's time just to have a look on what's new on Covidence and with the new Prisma features that were just recently released the last month. So Covidence has recently added a number of features relating to source checking as well as the Prisma diagram. So today what we're going to do is first learn about how to add database information to your Covidence Prisma. This is the first bit here. Second, how to add information about other sources as well, besides databases and registers to your Covidence Prisma. And finally, that's what the part where Razia will as well talk you through after I finish, is how to download your Prisma from Covidence, as well as other items that are new to Prisma 2020 and new to the version of the Prisma flow diagram, that is exported from Covidence. So I will do now is I'll take you through the first 2 items on how to add the databases or other sources information to your Prisma in Covidence. So I will start that with switching over to the Covidence platform. So I think you're seeing now a Covidence review. So this is a demo review created in Covidence. And this is the first page you go to when you access a review in Covidence. So if you've actually used Covidence before and you've created a review, this is your review summary page. This is the first page that you will land in once you create a review in Covidence. And what you will always see here is, and you'll keep track of, is your screening, your title and abstract screening, your full text review screening, as well as the extraction. And the first thing we're going to have a look now at is the feature relating to importing your citations into your review. So to do this, you always go to the import button here to import your citations. You'll see there's two sections here, the import from file page and import history. So the import from file page here is what you always see is at the top here is the option to select the category, which is the stage also or step of the review process that the references will appear in. So let's say you want to import all your references at the beginning of your review, then you need to select the screen section here, and these will import all your references into the title and abstract screening section. And this is the most used technically step where most users select at the beginning where they want to start from the beginning and import all of these references here, but there's a flexibility around that, and it's totally up to you where you want your references imported. It depends if you've done some screening outside of Covidence and so on. But what you'll also see now is a new drop-down menu on this page where you will be able to select the source to associate with the references that I'm about to import. So what you'll see is here a list of default sources, and if this list does not have what you need, you'll be able to actually create your own custom source using this manage source icon here. So what you'll see is once you click on that, it will bring a pop-up where you can add any additional databases or sources that are not listed originally. So one thing I need to add here is you'll notice among the list of those familiar databases that is already added as a default as well is something called citation searching. So the reason it was added is just to make sure that it is clear for everyone that this feature is not only to use for database tracking, but you can also use it for registers, for websites, query literature, and of course for citation searching as well. So what I'll do now, I will add to my review a custom source as an example, which in this case, I will really pick up query literature, because this is one of the common as well sources that we use, query literature. So I will add that. I have some references from websites. I will click on that as well. So you'll see that these are added here, and next to these icons, there's like a bin icon or trash icon next to these custom sources, and this means that they can actually be deleted. But you notice as well that there's no trash icon next to any of the default options, and this is the reason that you cannot delete them. You can only delete the custom sources. So what I will do now, we'll start by demonstrating how to import a file from a database such as PubMed, and then I will export that file from PubMed and import it into my review. So I will click on PubMed, and PubMed is again a database that is open access. And of course, if you have your actual search strategy ready, you usually click on the advanced section here, and where you enter all the fields from your search strategy and so on. But in this case, we'll keep it very brief and easy, straightforward for the purpose of this demo. And I will just use the general one, and I will just type in acupuncture and migraine. Okay, I have it here. So that is just produced the search results, and I have around 707 results. And just one thing as well to recap is that Covidence accepts three formats for file imports, which is the EndNote XML format, the RIS text format as well, which is provided by most databases. And if you're using PubMed, it accepts the PubMed text formatted file as well. So in this case, I would want, let's say, click on save. I'm happy to export all these results. And in this case, I need to select PubMed as my format because the PubMed text formatted file is what is accepted by Covidence. So I create file. It goes down to my downloads. So I will go back to my review here. Okay. And let's say I want to import all of these references to my screening section, and I want to assign PubMed, and this is one of the default sources here. This is the database PubMed. So I will click on that. And again, it's an optional thing to do, so you can just ignore that if you want, but I'm assigning now PubMed to my actual file. And then I need just to choose my file from my computer. So to go to my downloads, I'll find it here. And then I'll go ahead and click open and then click on import. So what will happen now that you'll be redirected to the review summary page. It will just say import in progress, and I'll just give it a little few seconds. But the next thing really what you'll need to look at after this file is imported is your import history page. So while the file is imported here, you actually just need to refresh it sometimes. So it's sometimes you just need to refresh it and just to make sure that it went all in. So again, as I just said, that the next thing we need to do is just to go over the actual import history page, because what you will notice now that there are a couple of changes that were made to the import history page. So we'll go through this now. So once you are on this summary page, it's a good idea to actually access the import history from here using the view details. I'll click on that now. It will redirect me directly to the actual page here. So what you'll see is actually the file I just imported. So you'll see the date. You'll still see this date. If you've used Covidence before, the date of when the references were imported is gonna still be available. But what's really new is you'll see also the actual file name once exported directly from that database. So let's say because I've actually exported now my file from PubMed, so it will say PubMed acupuncture. If it's coming from EndNote file, it will say EndNote screen EndNote, let's say .txt file. So it will actually now give you more details on the database or the source where this file came from. So this is among our newer features as well. And you may have noticed that when I was importing from the import from file page, I was only able to assign a single source to my file. However, from the import history page, I can add multiple sources with a single import. So let's say I happen to put everything into a reference manager like EndNote, and before I brought it across to Covidence, in which case I'm going to have lots of references, let's say, from different databases and other sources. So in this case, can actually assign these multiple sources to my single import using this icon here. But before we go into this now, I will want to demo this for you. So I will use EndNote for the purpose of this demo, and it's EndNote 20. So I'll go to my EndNote library here. So you should be able to see my EndNote library. And currently I have 43 references. And in this case, I've actually grouped my references in EndNote. I have around 20 from Medline, which is also a database. I have 20 from Web of Science, which is also a database. And probably I've had 3 references just from Gray Literature, that I actually manually imported into EndNote. So this is very common among our users and user community, that they actually have lots of things, lots of references from different databases, from different sources, and they really want to put that all in one file. So this is very common, especially that once you do a systematic review, you're required to really use at least 3 sources. So I have that all in one place, but when I export that file, I will now be able to assign the different sources in Covidence platform. So to do this, I'm just going to select all, reference, okay, and then I will click File, Export. So this is if you're using EndNote, but it should be hopefully the same for any other reference manager. But what you need to make sure is your reference manager that you are using has to provide 2 of these Covidence accepted file formats, which is the EndNote XML file, which is here, of course, if you choose XML in this case, it will give you by default an EndNote XML file because you're using EndNote. Or if not, you need to make sure that the reference manager you're using will produce an RIS text formatted file. So it should be an RIS text formatted file. And this is, again, one of the accepted, 2 of the, accepted file formats accepted by Covidence. So in this case, I will go ahead and produce an RIS text formatted file from my EndNote library. Make sure that you know the title of your library or your file and where you're saving it. So I'm gonna keep it on my desktop. I will click on Save, just replace it, no problem. And now I'm gonna go back to my import from file. I need to actually select my screening as well section. And in this case, I do not need to really assign yet anything. So it's optional. You can just override this step. I'll choose the file from, it's here. and I will click on import. So the import is in progress, but it's a little file, so I'll just go ahead and refresh start straight away. And then again, since you're redirected here, it's a good idea to actually access the import history from here. So you'll see now that I've actually imported this file and no sources have been assigned yet. So what I'll do now is I will go ahead and assign, because I know how many references were coming from each source. So I was using Medline. So this is my first one, and I was having, I had 20, references here. And I will go ahead and click on and search for Web of Science, because that was my second source. And also I had 20 references from Web of Science. And now my last one is my gray literature. This is the custom source I just added at the beginning of the demo. And now the system is going to expect me to add only 3 references. If I add 4, let's say, or this number or the count here is not really the same as the total number of references that were initially imported, the system will not let you go ahead and save or move forward. And the reason is why it's always going to double check this for you and make sure that the information that will appear here in your Prisma is in fact valid, because all of these numbers now will appear in your Prisma diagram in Covidence. So this is just to make sure that anything you're entering is going to be accurate and valid in your Prisma diagram. So now I will just put 3. As you can see, there's no further errors. I can go ahead and save. And now the source will say Medline +2. So I expect that this file had not only one source, didn't come from only one place, but also from actually 2 different sources. So if you want to click and see what are the other 2 sources, I can just click here on the box again. So a couple of other changes were done to the import history page that I would like to highlight before I hand over to Razia, is that these boxes used to be very slightly different. So now you'll see that we display information about things that have been merged as a study. So when there are multiple reports to the same studies in Covidence, you might want to merge them to become one item moving through your review. And usually the only way to merge studies at that point is when they're in your included section. So this is now a new feature that you will be able to see the number of merged studies here. And second here also that you'll be able to go directly through the duplicate page. And I'll click that now here. So that will redirect you to the system detected and the manually detected duplicates. So upon import, as a reminder, Covidence automatically deduplicates references against all studies within the import, against any previous imports in that review. So once you click on the duplicates as section, as I just did, you'll always see and be redirected to the system detected duplicates first, but also you'll see a section saying manually marked duplicates, because now during screening as well in Covidence, you will be able to manually mark duplicates if they slip through the net, and this is only while you're screening. And then once you mark them as a duplicate, the references will appear on this list here, and you'll be able, of course, to review that. And there's actually a link here at the top right if you would like a link to a document here that explains how Covidence detects duplicates. So you can always click on that and have a look and see if you're curious on how this algorithm works. So now going back to my import history page, just to cover a few things before I wrap up, that I just want to make sure that reiterate that you'll be able to still see the date of the references that were imported as well as the file name that I've mentioned earlier. And also you can find on this page the manage source icon as well. So the same that we saw on the import from file here, I can also see here at the top right on my import history page, the manage sources. So you'll still see the pop-up as well. And you'll still be able to add as many custom sources as needed, if needed, again as well from this page, and delete if necessary. And finally, the last thing I really wanted to mention is that it's still possible to undo an import if you have not already started screening. So you'll see an undo and import button here. So I'm going to click on one of them now. It will just let you know that this actually will remove all the studies added within that import. So if you're happy to go proceed, I will click on that. So it will say undone, and it will state the date this reference, this file, or that import was undone. And again, it is necessary, or it's a kind of a requirement really, to not start screening. However, if you have started, you will notice that you'll see a note similar to this one. I'll just show you one that is, let's say, disabled. So yeah, it will say undo import disabled. So in this case, all you need to do is really contact us, the support team, and we can reset the whole review for you to have a blank review. So now going back to the slides and just giving a whole kind of small recap about what we just went through. So as a summary here, the important tips about adding sources in Covidence. First, now you can use your file names to track info like the search date, database source, or update number. So that was the information now available for you. And you'll be able now to add a single source when importing a file, but as well as multiple sources as well from the import history page, as we just demonstrated when using EndNote. And finally, you can use the default sources that we have for you available, but let's say you do not see in this list the source that you need, you can always add your custom source using the Manage Sources icon. So now I'll hand over back to Razia, who will walk us through how to download the new version of Prisma flow diagram and how that looks like now in Covidence. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Gita. So,
okay. Shall I? Yeah, I need to give you the permission to change to present, right? Yes, I will do that now. So, sorry for this. Okay, I should see you soon. Okay, sorry for that. Okay, so you should be able now to see it pop up to share your screen, Razia.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, you can see your slides.
Well, can you actually see my slides?
I can see that you need to select one of the slides. Yes, I can see the dashboard now. I can see the main dashboard, Covidence dashboard.
All right, great. So thank you, Gita, for all the information on adding the sources. So once we have added the sources, the next step is to export the Prisma diagram with the sources that we have added. So on the main review page, you will see on the top right, Prisma, you click here. Once you are done with your review, and just a while ago, I saw one of the questions that I have done the extraction, but I haven't added the sources. So now what? So you have done everything. When you click Prisma, you will always see if there are references with unspecified sources, it will notify you that. So, and then you will have the option to go to, you'll have the option to update. To do that, you can always click here and it will redirect you to the import history page that Gita has already showed you in very much detail. So from here, you can check that which of my imports do not have the sources. So this is where I see an import without a source. I can add any source. For example, if these 10 references were directly added to included and my source was website, I can just add that, save it. And now I would expect that my Prisma does not show that notification. Back to my Prisma here. And great, there is no notification. I can calculate how many these all individual numbers I can calculate should sum up to 241. And you can also check your exclusion reasons. So that's about it, what you can do within the Covidence platform. Now coming towards the export, how to export this diagram. If you have used Covidence in the past, you must have seen that there was this option to export, and when you click that option, it looked like the plain text. You can do that now as well if you want to create your own diagram. But what we have added is you can now export as text. So I've downloaded it, and then when I open it, so it will open in a Word doc and you will see the whole diagram here. So as recommended, there are 3 sections, mainly identification, screening included. I'll go through each section, and I'll highlight the things that you need to do after you export. So firstly, you will see that I added websites, and websites are here under databases and registers, and it should not be here. So all you need to do is, if it's websites, citation searching, gray literature, you will need to paste it here. Anything that's not relevant, you can remove it, and then you can just add the number. Right, so first row is now ready to go. The second row, you will see that there are total number of references removed, but then you will not see the individual numbers. So you'll see it's written duplicates identified manually, duplicates identified by Covidence. Geeta has showed you how you can see that. I'll just go again to the platform, and what you can do is you can just take that number from the platform and add it there. So we know that there are 4 system detected and 6 manually marked. So I can go back to my diagram. I can add 6, 4, and so these number, and 6 and 4 is equal to 10, and there are no study marked ineligible by automation tool. It's not relevant in this review, so I can remove that. But if there are studies that have been marked ineligible by automation tools, you need to mention that as per PRISMA 2020. Okay, so first thing what we did, we moved the other sources on the right hand side. Then we specified the individual duplicates. Now I'm going towards the screening. This is all good. The third row regarding studies is screened. Great. Now this one, as I mentioned before as well, this is something new that has been added in Covidence. Since it cannot capture the specific information that the studies that are sought for, that the studies that are not retrieved, what you can do is, so in Covidence you will see that by default these 2 numbers will be same. Covidence assumes right now is that studies that pass through full text are sought for retrieval. So these 2 will always be the same number from the export, from the Covidence export. What you need to do is you can track studies full text not retrieved as one of the exclusion criteria. You can simply take this number and adjust your Prisma accordingly. The first thing you'll do, you'll see, okay, these are 20. You can add studies not retrieved 20 here, and accordingly you will subtract 20 from here. Studies assessed for eligibility, so 53, I guess, 40. All right, and then here again you will subtract 20, and you can finally remove it from here. Right, and then we have finally the included studies here. In Covidence, you might know that there are 2 pre-populated tags. So if you have tagged any studies as studies ongoing or awaiting classification, I did not do it in this review, but if you have done that, it will show you that number in this box. Other than that, you can play around. If there is any box you do not want, you can easily remove the box. You can elongate your arrow. If you want to add a box, you can do that. You can add a box, and so yeah, all these editing you can do however you want to do as per your preferences. And yeah, so that's about it. I will just now give you an a summary of what I really told you. Right. So this is briefly what I have already highlighted when I was talking about what you need to do after you export your Prisma. So firstly, you need to move other sources, citation searching, gray literature to the top right box from the left one, because everything will be on the left side when you export. The second thing, you need to update details about the deduplication, use of automation, and other pre-screening reference removal. Anything that's removed before the screening, you will need to update that on the box on the in the duplicate box. And then the last thing that you need to do is you need to use an exclusion reason to track the studies that are not retrieved, and then you can update your Prisma accordingly. So that's about it. The demo completes here. I will now hand over to Laura.
Thanks, Razia. That was great. Just before we take some questions at the end, I've got another poll to run. And what we'd like to know now, I'll launch this poll for you now, is having watched the webinar, how confident you now feel about producing a PRISMA flowchart using Covidence based on some of the information that you've received today. Okay, I'll just leave that up for a couple more seconds. I can see about 75% of you have now voted. Thank you very much. This is useful for us in helping us plan our next sessions, making sure that we can provide the information that you need in order to get on with your PRISMA reporting. So I'll close the poll now. We've now got about 70% of you saying that you're somewhat confident, so I think that's great. And 3% still not confident at all. I think in that case it would be probably quite good to check out our knowledge base, support.covidence.org, where we've got some more articles that you can browse to do with PRISMA. We've got some blog posts as well that we'll share with you. And also you can write into us if there's anything in particular that you're getting stuck with. So please don't hesitate to contact us if you've got anything that you need help with. Okay, we've got about 15 minutes left, so I'm going to hand back over to Gida at the, now for some questions.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you so much. Actually, just but before we go through the questions, there was one interesting question that was reporting that when we were demoing from, let's say, EndNote and importing into Covidence, that some users might probably start or decide to deduplicate references within EndNote before they import to Covidence. And this is important to note that when you do that and you choose to deduplicate an EndNote before importing to Covidence, which is it's completely optional, up to the team, that you just need to make sure that this number that was the number of duplicates detected by EndNote, you need to write it down, because in this case, once you import the file again into Covidence, and probably Covidence will actually deduplicate again, you need to add this number of the duplicates detected in EndNote back to the Prisma that you export from Covidence and add these numbers. So it does actually report the accurate number. So in this case, you've actually deduplicated from EndNote. So you actually have a number of duplicates already detected beforehand. So you need to really write this down and then add this number to the number of duplicates that were detected by Covidence as well into your Prisma, as Razia just demonstrated. So just to make sure that you have the accurate and correct numbers of how many duplicates were detected. And again, there's no rules on whether you would like to deduplicate before or not to deduplicate before importing to Covidence. Let's say, an EndNote or any other reference manager. It's really up to the team. However, we also deduplicate, and we have a document, as I just showed you earlier, on how you can always have a look on how the algorithm works. So this is one of the questions that I've seen, and it just came up a few times. And thank you so much for raising this. Is there? So I can see a few things, but Delinda or Stephanie, is there any?
Yes, there's a question, Gita. Could you explain the difference between the articles retrieved and the articles screened in the second section of the Prisma flow diagram?
Yeah, I'll hand that to Razia.
Yeah, I'll take that. Thanks, Gita. So the articles retrieved are those. So it's not always the case that you will find all the full text of the studies that you have included in the full text. You might be a conference abstract, that might be anything, or this could be any other issue that there is no full text. So if there is no full text, then you cannot screen that full text for eligibility. So you cannot say that this number, so therefore there's this differentiation. If there's a full text, only then you can check the eligibility. If there's no full text, you cannot check the eligibility. And so you just remove it. This additional step is added. This additional layer is only added because you can keep track of the studies for which the full text could not be retrieved, and hence the eligibility could not be confirmed.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Razia.
Yeah, I can see another question here that is it's really interesting as well about, is it possible to introduce a second search round into the PRISMA flowchart? And also I can just see that was really asked a few times. And yes, it is possible to do a second search and multiple times at any time during your screening. And this will update the PRISMA numbers automatically. And this is just if you're just using Covidence for the first, let's say, version of your review. But also if you choose to update the review again, let's say, and you import a new set of references, because this is a requirement, you're updating your search, and a new you have a new file to import at the later stage, let's say, even after if you've completed the whole review, then you can do that, and this will now to be automatically added to the previous numbers in your PRISMA diagram as well, and it will be also shown on your download, the document that you can download as well.
There are two questions that are related, so I would answer that. So one is that what do you mean by report of included studies? Can the number differ from the studies included? That's one question. And the second question I see is a study merge the same as removing duplicates? So I'll answer those together. So firstly, it's not always the case that you have one reference from one study. In a lot of clinical trials, you will see that out of one study, there are multiple reports, different reports reporting different outcomes. So, but the study is one. So reports are multiple, but study is one. So that's the answer to question number one. And the answer to question to this question, that is the merge same as duplicate? No, it's not. So when you merge those reports together, these all you need to report, the number you need to report. Duplicates are different. Duplicates are same references. However, the studies that you merge are coming from one study but are different references. So I hope that answers these two questions.
Also, there's a question about, do you recommend using EndNote to merge papers from different databases or using Covidence? So this is related as well to what we've demonstrated today, and I just want to clarify. So the only way really in Covidence is just that every time you need to import a file, you can only assign a single source at a time, at the moment. But we made it possible that if, let's say, you've actually used a reference manager beforehand, and because that's mainly it's how it's possible to really merge all the references in one go. It's usually using reference managers like EndNote or Zotero or Mendeley or anything. So this is the reason we made it possible from the import history page to assign multiple sources to this single import, because that import has all that different databases within it. So which is usually exported from a reference manager. So Covidence in this case, it's not kind of a comparison, rather than what is really possible to do through each platform. So the Covidence platform will allow you, let's say, to import a file from a single import, but to assign a single source at a time. But if your file is coming from a reference manager like EndNote or Zotero and has all the references in one place, and these references are coming from different sources, then now it's possible from the import history page to also assign these sources to the actual file that was imported, and of course make sure the number or the counts of the references is accurate and the same as the number of references that were imported into the Covidence platform. And another as well question about, it was a very nice question on the updates, Razia. If you're doing an update search, let's say, and it's actually imported into Covidence, which is also very common. And definitely this will be automatically pre-populated in the Prisma. But this means when you need to download it, the question is, I would need to add in the additional boxes for the Prisma, correct?
Yeah, you will need to add the additional boxes. And another thing that you need to consider is that if you are importing the references to the same review, the numbers will update, and you need to have track those separately. So there are two things that we recommend. Firstly is that you first export that Prisma, and you should have that number from the previous review. And then when you import the new citations, it's great to tag those references so you can track them. Or another way you can do is that you can, if for example you have your account is linked to an institution, you can create a new review so that you can then track separately the update, the references from the updated search. So, but yes, you will have to add the additional boxes when you're updating it. Another question was that, yeah, EndNote sometimes have different number of duplicates than Covidence, because Covidence, the search strategy is more sensitive than specific, so it might miss some references in order to avoid removing relevant references. So that's the reason.
And what's the difference between studies and reports in the final box of the Prisma diagram, Razia? That's the question as well.
Yeah, I've just answered it. So there could be multiple reports from a single study. If in a lot of clinical trials, you will see that there are multiple studies that are reports, papers that are published from one single study. So you need to merge them, and you need to report. You need to report the references, number of references separately, and number of studies separately. So the number of studies will be lesser than the number of references. I'm going to.
Yeah, Dylan, Stephanie, have we missed anything? Sorry, we're just going through them, but I can see none. Just also a question: if you receive a recording of this session, you will receive a recording, and this is usually 24 hours from the session, and you'll also receive the slide decks, and it will be all available on our knowledge base after in the recent webinars link as well, along with the actual handout. Because there's a handout in the slides. Razia, can you please go to the next slide, few next slides. There's an actual, on the last slides here on this slide deck, you'll see that there's a link to the handout, and this will show you, and once you click on this link, once you have the slides on the, once we have the slides on the knowledge base, you'll be able to access the document from there. And yes, and just we need to add that we also have our knowledge base that is very useful and comprehensive guide using the platform. So I've also in this handout, we actually added the links to our knowledge base on importing references, assigning sources, and Prisma as well of course as accessing it from the platform itself, either using the widget need help button or the question mark icon on your account, and it will have all the details around the tool and about importing references as well as exporting Prisma from Covidence.
Right. Thanks, Geeta. So I can just take a few questions since we have 2 minutes. So one of the questions is that I've already actually answered this one, that if it's an abstract, should be excluded? No, you shouldn't exclude it, but you can exclude it. So you can exclude it in the pre-full text screening phase, that is the studies not retrieved, full text not retrieved. You can exclude it at that phase. And then there are another question regarding which data, removing duplicates, which database would be removed. There's no database that would be removed if you're removing duplicates. So what Covidence does is that looks at within the references within the reviews and references within the specific import to remove the duplicates. So if the you do not have to report that duplicates are removed from which databases, but the way it works in Covidence is that the new, since it will also see the imports that are already there, so it will keep the references from the previous import, and it will remove the new reference that is a duplicate. So that's how it works, but you do not have to report it anyway. What does records marked as ineligible by automation tools mean? So now with the exponentially increasing AI, there are some tools that might recommend. So firstly, one thing is that, so in Covidence as well, you'll see that we have an RCT classifier. So our RCT classifier automatically tells you that these are the references that are not, and that do not report an RCT. So that is something that the automation tool has excluded. So this is something that you can mention there. And I think we are on time now, so we can probably wrap up this session. And so thanks a lot for joining. And if there are any outstanding questions, do contact us at support@covidence.org, and we will also answer the outstanding questions via email. So thank you so much.
Great, thank you all, and have a nice rest of your day. Thank you all for joining. Bye-bye.